go to Ascend. Third is in that contest for an Ascend or Nirvana group, and then fourth place is automatically in Nirvana. LNG are going to be on the blue side. Immediate pick of the Gwen here, responded to by LGD in kind with the Jax the Fury lock-in. Let's go.
Whoa. First of all, this is way too fast. V1 Gwen is something that
That's the meta now.
LPL has seemed to be loving recently. Like, Gwen does really well into a lot of the bruisers, melee kind of champions over in the top side. So now that Cassante is not necessarily flavor of the month anymore, and he usually does really bad into Gwen, this is very B1able. I do like the Poppy right there. Stops a lot of the dashes coming through from LGD. However, locking in the Naafiri when it's something that really needs priority, likes to farm, likes to play a bit more aggressive, I'd like to see a more priority-based mid laner for XQW. I'll get used to that promise.
The smashing of the keyboard. It's
random
fine.
letters.
Yeah, it's been typically when we first started seeing the Gwen come up, it wasn't answering to the Mbessa, but now being strong enough on her own to find those picks early. Climber going back to the Naafiri that didn't work out against IG earlier, but still looked pretty good in that early game. Want to see if they can maybe tool that around a little bit more. The Aurora is going to be the third lock-in for them.
Yeah, that's what I love right here, that you prior this with Aurora that can actually bully Corki a little bit in the early game, get that priority. You can try to invade if you want. Now, of course, the Poppy can be a flex towards Zhuo as well if you want to take it over down the bot lane, so you're keeping the jungle pretty much open. But right now, 80 carry pools are going to get hit, the Viruses, the Ezreals. I'm expecting specifically the Ezreal for Photic. Not only is he very good at this, but it also pairs up really nicely with Corki because they have the exact same item power spike. I'm expecting this to be taken away by LGD.
I also just really like the flexibility that LNG have right now, at least a little bit in that terms of where the Poppy can go. But now we're looking at the second, at least phase focuses for both teams. It's the ADC focus for that Ashe, like you were kind of mentioning, focusing on. The Varus is that next ban by LNG, so maybe it's just a bot lane party here in the second phase of bans.
Yeah, and let's look, because like, usually this is very new to me because I've been casting a lot of ERLs and EMEA Masters over in Europe, and usually you don't necessarily see that much priority over the top lanes, particularly the Gwens. So you usually have, like, in your first rotation always 80 carries, and right now I'm seeing most likely 4 80 carry bans taken away. I'm wondering if Shaoye is going to choose to take potentially the Ezreal away down the bot lane now that Varus is no longer a pick that's up on the table that does really well traditionally into the Ezreal.
I would be really curious because I think going into this one, there's a lot to be said between the jungle matchups and seeing what we're going to get between the two. But bot lane is forever fun to me between these two guys. And I especially Photic and Shaoye out of the 2v2s. The Draven ban straight to Shaoye. That is his comfort pick. That is his confident pick. They do not want to give that one over.
Ooh. Okay, I do like that misfortune here, and I don't like this misfortune here. I just don't see a lot of static champions that the bullet time would do justice into. Yeah, and Photic gets his Ezreal, which pairs up really nicely with the Corki over in the mid lane as well. And, like, who stands still to eat the bullet time? Who?
Hey, at least you got the Alistar to try to do something there. And even more hurt to that idea of where are you going to go, what are you going to do, Shaoye? Because I just don't think it's going to be easy to get those bullet times off like you're saying. I wonder now what they try to finish that one up off with. They need setup. They need something to enable this Naafiri, something to give them that big wombo combo. Hey, and an uplifting presence in that regard can be the Nautilus.
Yeah, I feel like the Nautilus is great here because we talked about how there's not many static champions over in LNG that you can cast bullet time on. But Nautilus, point click, CC, knock up, you can actually lock someone down, get your bullet time, a little bit more value here, especially with Corki and Ezreal that are so slippery around the map as well. I'm not gonna lie, LNG's life is on the line. This is the game that they need to be winning. And I feel like their composition looks really good. They've got a lot of setup. They have a lot of wave clear with the Corki. They've got a lot of side lane pressure with the Gwen as well. The only thing that really does worry me a little bit is that their early game is not very strong. Misfortune traditionally really good into the Ezreal. You've got Aurora that can bully out Corki very early on. So if we have those types of champions taking over the early game, Corkis and Ezreals don't come back that easily.
This is, as you said, do or die to some extent in terms of trying to fight for that Ascend group for LNG. things have just not worked out for them. It feels like the team is so consistently mismanaging situations, things like that. I just want to see this team show up big on the last day of the groups, give us a little bit of hope, and maybe throw a wrench into the works of what this group can be, because the expected situation was IG, JDG 1 and 2, LGD were the clear 3s. LNG was that 4th. If they can try and find that upset, they could try to find something here, it would be very nice to see, and we get a little bit more fun in the group. Try to upset the balance of things. They've got a decent comp to do it with here. The biggest thing is keeping consistency with Haichao and finding out exactly how much impact WeiWei can have on this map if they can find that carry focus towards Photic as well, because this LGD team has been giving the highest teams in this Group D a run for their money, and we'll see if they can do anything about it here for LNG. In our 4th game of the day, LNG versus LGD, we'll hear those Gios.
I'm not gonna lie, and it's probably been talked about a lot, specifically for LNG. I feel like Scout was such a big part of the team, particularly last year. Like, there came a point where we're like, he's everything for them. He's side lane pressure, he's lane push, he's a lane bully, he is the team fighter, he's the engager, he's the guy who's going to set up the TPs, he's the guy who's going to set up the wards, he's the guy who takes towers for the team. And it came to a point where we're like, okay, LNG is just Scout. And now that Scout has been removed from the equation, LNG is sort of crumbling because Haichao could not necessarily fill the shoes that Scout was last year. And now is the time to pick this role up and actually show that you can do it. This is life on the line. This is the game you need to be winning if you're LNG. And you do have pretty good tools. The scaling looks great. You just need to have your mid lane and bot lane not fall too far behind.
Yeah, it's funny going back to that Scout point. You rely on this guy so much, but he also was a pretty big reason why they were losing games as well. So that double-edged sword is always there. We'll see if Haichao can hone that edge here at all for LNG. But now we're looking at the map state. We did get a little bit of kerfuffling between the junglers early in that top side warding situation, but both junglers going to be on this bot side to start out pathing towards top potentially.
I'm not gonna lie, this is going to be a little bit more of like a low presence on the map sort of side for LNG. You do have scaling mid and bot lane, and the really cool thing that not a lot of people mention about Corki and Ezreal, they spike at the same time. Trinity into Mana Moon is exactly what you need for both of them, and this is where they come online. 2 items is not necessarily too late into the game, but it's always the question, what are you willing to lose early on to then be able to get back into that game? But there's also a lot of poke, which then allows them to be able to get into these neutral objectives using that poke to force themselves through choke points.
Yeah, and like that's the kind of setup you get from draft. Execution obviously is always the next conversation, next question. But how do we think about these paths early on? I do typically in this new Nefiri setup like the early action. You get this champion, by the way, is just absolutely disgustingly broken. But we have seen it lose. We've seen Climber lose on it. And you have to stay consistent. You have to stay proactive on this pick because it is a damage dealing carry.
Yeah, it feels like AD Nidalee has finally showed herself. It could also be, okay, you know how Eevee evolves into so many different champions? This could be a Nidalee. This is like Nidalee evolving into her AD version. That's called Nefiri.
Okay, I like that.
What stone
and
would
it
you
also
give her?
like
What
peels
stone would you
open.
give her?
I mean, it'd have to have some kind of like sword or blade on it, right? Like the dog is literally a knife.
A dog.
So you just like have a knife or something. That might be
All right.
one of the most hardcore evolution stones that you would ever find. It's just like a badass stone for evolution. Well, is that Eevee gonna be enough this time for Climber? I guess we'll find out. There's also a bunny in mid lane. I don't know if we want to go with the low punny stuff, but you know, we could just change this into Pokemon at this point. Hey, I'm here for that. I have experience at the zoo, so it's fine. I'll feel safe and comfortable. That early path that we were talking about, I was wondering if we were going to get any action of. Nothing happened. We got
really?
warding up towards top side for Climber and for LGD, and that was about it.
I feel like there's not many opportunities you can get because Gwen was pushed in, Haichao was just resetting, so there were not many openings for Naafiri. Also, you don't have a lot of setup right here with Naafiri.
Yeah.
Your setup primarily lies over down the Nautilus, so I feel like we're going to get to see a little bit of action when YCX actually gets out of lane and tries to follow up together with Climber to get those in. However, it's not very easy because if WeiWei reads the play, Poppy is very good into Nautilus, stops the hooks, gets to re-engage. So we'll see where Climber actually finds his openings right here. I'm assuming the easiest one would probably be if Zika overextends over in the top lane. He doesn't really have a displacement summoner spell, since he has gone Ignite plus that teleport. So he could potentially be the easiest choice over in the early game.
I love the little thought process on WeiWei as well. On the Poppy, you can have a lot of impact, but you also think about the player himself. I know we were talking about beforehand, and it's been a long time, it feels like, since we saw WeiWei in that final at Worlds. But, you know, it wasn't so long ago, and this guy jumping around to a couple, at least now to LNG from Weibo for the last year, really needs to make a mark as Sasi getting bullied under turret there. But WeiWei has the potential in this game to make a massive mark as this Poppy.
Absolutely, he can stop a lot of the dashes on the Aurora, the Nautilus, Naafiri, Jax. They all have ways of getting into this fight, so I think he's going to play a pivotal role. And to be fair, I feel like Poppy has been a champion in the jungle that's been very underlooked. I feel like you can create a lot of sticky scenarios, specifically when it comes under towers, when it comes to swaying a gank, a tower dive. So we'll see how WeiWei chooses to pilot it here. It's going to be the Sundered Sky, Poppy as well. A lot of the times when you see it in the top lane, it could also go towards like Trinity or Fist, one of the two. But particularly in the jungle, you want the Sundered Sky because you want to have a little bit more extra oomph when it comes to your ganks, the setup, the damage that you do. And I do really like this because you have AP towards the top of the map for that Gwen. Now the swap has come through, but there isn't necessarily a low priority, and LGD are going to take first dips into the river.
They do get the first grub at least. Looks like Climber wants to get out of the back of the pit, rightfully so. Haichao, Photic, Zhuo are already here. They are getting engaged on. That's the Between Worlds. XQW is bouncing between them like a ping pong paddle. Now Zhuo getting low as well. They get the nice little readjustment there from LNG to make it out alive, but that was dicey.
And a little bit of a reminder, Corki, Ezreal, not really the champions you want to have around a 4-versus-4 skirmish. Both having a tier with a couple of stacks. There's no real stats behind the two champions early on to be able to rely to have that skirmish. Usually what happens with the early Void grabs, specifically after they've been changed to serve a better purpose when it comes to feats of strength, is that one jungle will usually get in. It's usually the jungle that doesn't have the priority, steal one with smite, and then back out. And then you allow the other jungle to take the rest. However, this time around, Climber gets in, gets the first one, then the re-engage happens from LGD, and since they win that skirmish, due to them having stronger champions in the early game, they've actually managed to get all three and +1 take on the feats of strength.
That's so huge. The siege potential for LGD will go through the roof now. You have to think about that next spawn of grubs. They definitely want to try to get all 6 at this point and keep stacking those up. Now we readjust our vision, though, as we take a look towards bot side. Dragon is still up on the table. Hasn't been the biggest priority for our LPL teams, but if you can start stacking those up, it definitely is a boon. We have the entirety of LGD pretty much down towards this bottom side, but it still looks like that objective is going to go to the wayside.
And I really love the differences between the regions as well, because if you look over at EU, Dragon is the #1 neutral objective that will be prioritized, because the EU generally thrives around pure team fights, right? They'll stall early game, try to fight late game. Dragon stacking is the best thing to do that. You just force enemy team to fight you at some point, and this is how you win the game. However, with the LPL, when you've got side lane pressure like the Jax, like the Gwen, having those void grabs is very pivotal because you get to have these towers early on. That means fog of war for enemy team, and you get to make more plays over in the side lane with the likes of the Poppy and the Gwen, or Jax plus Naafiri. So it's really cool to see a change in scenery right here. However, when it comes to the Dragon, since we talked about it, I feel like definitely LGD do have a better footing to try and go for that Dragon early on. Aurora plus Misfortune are huge tools in that early to push out that wave and then dip into the river. However, most of the priority in terms of vision relies to LNG, but that is an Alistar ult plus Ignite, so that could give you the tools to walk up river.
That's a pretty decent combo there. YCX gonna have his ultimate very soon as well. See if they want to actually push a little bit of pressure there. Again, get the reset out from Zhuo. We are getting a little bit of move from XQW and Climber to try and see if they maybe need to hover over on this top side. And I think there is a problem brewing here, Trouble. Just a little one. And she's running around with a big set of scissors. Starting to get a little bit of a lead over Sasa is Zika. And Gwen, as that first pick, going to need to have a lot of extra effort as Photic just tanking those shots from Shaoye. My goodness. They were just trading blows back and forth. But this Gwen will be a problem that LG need to figure out how to deal with.
Yeah, and I feel like XQW is not going to have too much trouble because specifically with the ultimate and going invisible, you're going to be able to sort of dance around that Gwen. But Shaoye does not have a lot of ways of getting away with from Zika. So I feel like it's going to be Zika's responsibility to find those angles to get onto Shaoye, because Shaoye is also one of the bigger tools that LGD has to sort of stop you from getting into those neutral objectives. You've got the E, you've got the bullet time, you can literally just hammer down those choke points that LNG want to walk through, particularly when they do not have a lot of that priority through lanes, and they will most likely be secondary when it comes to getting into those river objectives. So getting Shaoye out of the picture is going to be a huge task for Zika right there.
Speaking of river objectives, 35 seconds till the Grubageddon could potentially be spawned on the Rift with LGD. If they take another 3 of them, I do want to see both teams kind of readapting towards that side of the map. It already looks like some vision being played towards up there for LGD. You also have WeiWei already on that side of the map. Climber on his way there now. We'll see if the setup is good. Do you think the dive comes through first? Do you think the setup from LGD is enough to kind of take this?
No, absolutely not. I think diving a Gwen is a huge mistake. Unless you have 4 members around. If you have 4 members around, like, knock yourself out. But it wasn't quite the case. I don't think Aurora Nautilus can actually pin down Gwen for long enough, and then somebody's gonna die, and then you give away the Void Grubs. However, right here, they've got more than enough. Look at that priority through that bot lane. Sasa is pushing that bot lane tower, which means that now Haichao needs to spend time down bot lane to pressure that one out. They're losing a couple of turret platings down bot lane as well, and I love the fact they have brought Nafiri together with Misfortune down the mid lane to push that one in.
Oh! Zhuo just says, we're going. You get the horns as WeiWei needs to get away. Goes for the flash. Nice combo. Shaoye, he thought he could get the bullet time. There's no way he was ever going to, but now he's dicing away onto WeiWei. Nice little re-engage, but WeiWei goes down now. And Climber, he's able to help get Shaoye that first blood for LGD.
See, this is the problem. If you don't have the mid lane wave and you try to force a play when you don't have a mid lane wave, this is usually how it turns around. I think WeiWei had a really great play.
Oh my Shaoye! He sits Photic down, one of the legacy players in the LPL, and welcomes Shaoye to the stage.
Okay, Shaoye is putting a performance right here, and I don't know if we're gonna get to see the replay. But I'm just gonna say one thing, because we talked a little bit about Photic, and you know from last year when he was playing in IP how much I liked Photic. I'm like, hey, this is a baby Jackie Love in the making. He went from baby Jackie Love in the making to we have Jackie Love at home.
Oh no.
He's only kept primarily the bad parts of being Jackie Love, which is overextending, not necessarily being at the right position. But let's say this one more time. You do not have push in the mid lane, which means that Photic gets stuck, not being able to put the damage down. Your only damage deal is right there in the engage where Poppy and Alistar, and that's not enough. When they catch Shaoye, it's a really good play, but Shaoye getting away because Photic can just not establish himself in this fight. It was always an Alistar and a Poppy, and there's just not enough damage to take anyone down. No.
Oh, Photic. That feels so bad. Apparently you do. Shaoye getting away that initial gauge, actually insanity. But able to layer it down. I thought that bullet time doomed him, I'm not going to lie, but it's good to see the year-long veteran on LGD show up in that regard, as much as this team can be veteran. As now we actually look at top side. It's an engage on XQW. A lot of damage from Haichao. He is the most fed member of LNG. And they do end up packing a punch there, Trouble.
Yeah, and I feel like if we're talking about the most fed members of both sides,
do
Shaoye, 2-0, Bloodthirster already. If he wasn't dying before, he's not going to be dying anytime soon right now. And Sasa... Is that a 14-minute uncontested full tire plating tower he just took down bot lane?
That's going to do it. Haichao's going to get a nice little answer on the other side, but yeah, gold definitely going the way of LGD. They are about 2,000 gold up in this early game, but this is separating the systems that we expected here in this Group D. LGD were the favorites to come out third. People at our team had them in first place even because of some of the stuff they showed in that split one, but being able to establish themselves as the second place team potentially and keep themselves above LNG, keep themselves above this chaos is the most important factor for this team right now.
Absolutely, and LNG have not said their last word either. Again, Ezreal plus Corki become a little bit obnoxious to deal with, specifically later on, and their team is built to allow space and time for that Ezreal Corki to put down the DPS. You've got Poppy and Alistar standing literally right in front of them. You've got pretty good face check potential with the Alistar as well if you lose towards Fog of War for these objectives. But right here, LGD are just using the raw power they have again. Bloodthirster, Eclipse, Trinity, all completed on the side of LGD, and they're just brute forcing the way through getting priority from Misfortune.
Yeah, they have complete control. I mean, they had like a 13-minute first dragon or something, but now we're getting the engage on top with the TP coming in. It's going to be XQW. They got to save him. Yeah, XQW.
What?
Oh, my God. That was a TP of all time.
What? You just TP'd. Okay.
Yep. That's what
Just
Poppy
a reminder.
does.
Okay, at least it was in EU we say good death. It was a good death because they managed to get that mid lane tier 1. But no, that was that
what
was
do you
also
say
good
in
for
team
sure.
comm to that? Like, what do you? What is your community? You say sorry, guys.
On me.
It's like when you take
On
the
me.
portal on ARAM when you don't mean to. And you're like behind the enemy team. All of a sudden, you're like, I'm sorry. I'm just dead.
No, you say either my bad or on me. But right there, you can also say good death because they took mid lane tier 1. And if it
You think he's saying
for...
good death? You think he's trying to save me? It was a good death. I watched you. And in the end,
if you're a fan of the boss, that's what it is. It's a good death right there.
there you go.
However,
Gotta
moving
get
forward,
the tie-ins.
that is also an extra kill that you're giving over
It
to a
is?
Corki that's now sprung up to a 1.4k gold diff of his counterpart, which is that Aurora that died over on the top side of the map. And I will say, Aurora used to absolutely plague the LPL last year. However, right now, she's not the position she used to be. I feel like towards that mid to late game, she really does struggle. If she gets caught, even within her ultimate, she can go down really quickly. She doesn't necessarily have the burst to 100% to zero if he doesn't get full ahead over in the early game. So at least for LNG, this is good news for them. Getting their Corki ahead and sort of depriving Aurora. Hold up, Zika.
Zika's healing so much. Has that needlework tucked and ready to go. Yeah, the thing is though, Trouble, Riot Games have this very powerful weapon called the Nerf bat, and unfortunately, she got smacked a couple times by that thing. There's gonna be a tier 2 tower, right? That's what I'm saying. Tier 2 tower goes down to LGD as they try to use that side lane pressure there. A little bit of map gained on the top side for LNG. Still about a 2,000 gold lead hovering around for LGD going into the 18th minute.
And that is the perfect side of the map. If you are LGD, you're looking to start stacking now dragons. You've got the first one and 1.5 of the second one. Towers being down means fog of war and a lot less control inside your own jungle if you're LNG. And they only have Alistar that can actually face check and try to place down some vision. They do have a little bit of vision. I mean, a control ward inside the Dragon Pit is not necessarily pretty good vision, and now a lot of it is going to be taken away. But Haichao is looking for top.
Okay, maybe they find Sasa. The flash comes out, though, and he is out of there. They're trying to make a play on the bot side of the map for LGD to try to get a counter somewhere. Looks like side lane push is just going to be the name of the game. There is a dragon coming up in about a minute. Again, there had only been one dragon taken until like 15 minutes into the game, and now LNG are putting pressure on top side, which is going to pull the attention of LGD. But that's a tier 2 tower secured by LNG on the back end of the play.
I was expecting for them to actually put a lot more pressure over in the top side of the map, but if you saw the movement from LGD, they were actually crossing through mid lane to potentially cut them off on the top side of the map if they tried to push any further from the side of LNG. So that was very clever play from LGD, but as you can see here, LNG are putting all of their eggs in Haichao's basket. And he's not been able to step up until now. LNG has not been able to pull out a win. This is his time to shine. This is his time to prove that him stepping into Scout's shoes was a very good choice from the org and that he can pull that through. Because we do remember LNG with Scout being almost 2k up. That was a deal breaker.
You also have to remember that Haichao was the development piece for LGD. He was the guy that spent a year on LGD Young in the LDL, got moved up, spent almost 2.5 years on LGD, but were never able to find consistency. And against his old squad, trying to put up a fight here and trying to make LNG matter in the group. Photic going to find the kill potentially out of YCX. He's dodging, he's dipping, but it will be WeiWei that secures it. TP, double from LGD, looking for trouble as well as XQW's in there. Bullet time over the edge, but it's not going to do much damage. And Sasi, he's cooking. He ain't got a real weapon, but he's got a dog at his side. And Climber making good on that first attempt. He's looking for wins this time on the Nefiri. A double kill has come through, maybe looking to follow it. Did get the reset there, but will not follow through under turret. Massive play from LGD.
That was a 3 for 3 at the end of the day, but LGD come out clutch because primarily all the kills went over to Nefiri, Misfortune, another tier 2 tower over in the mid lane falls. But that also looked promising for LNG. Not only do they manage to get 3 members down, but that play, I mean, again, it is WeiWei and Zhuo trying to make plays around the map. This is a Poppy. This Poppy does not deal as much damage as you think. Nautilus is pretty tanky. He uses his anchor plus his flash, and then his W comes back up, which actually forces Photic and WeiWei to overextend, allowing for the LGD teleports to come through. And that bullet time was actually brutal. Again, zoning Photic out for majority of that fight. I mean, Photic also eat into this.
It's a little rough for sure.
We got Jack Love at home kind of side of him.
The thing is, I remember talking earlier that, like, Nefiri is an insane champion, but you need to have a dual-pronged threat. Sasi is that dual-pronged threat, and YCX might just be a little bit of bait here. He should make it out. The rest of LGD were swarming around them. Atacon is still up on the table on the top side. LNG maybe trying to find a fast play onto it, at least get some vision over onto this side of the map.
Okay. Do you remember the meme with Kassadin, which was like 1 out of 16? Smoke
Yes.
2 out of 16. See, for Corki and Ezreal, it's 1 out of 2, 2 out of 2. It's time. Manamoon and Trinity Force completed. This is where both of these champions spike at the same time. And actually, you're on the right side of the Atacon because you can use the wall to poke through if LGD choose to start that Atacon play. The goal difference is not that massive because you've got a slight gold lead on Gwen. Hold up, this play is red.
WeiWei just went in there and died. Shaoye eviscerates him with the bullet time. And that's just going to mean LGD goes straight over to the Atacon. There's no jungler. WeiWei just tossing this fight, unfortunately. And LNG struggling to find a way back into it. Maybe overextending themselves because of it. Trying to take advantage of the Atacon. Trying to take advantage of the apprehensiveness that LGD is approaching this one with. They just go for the fight, though, as LGD have pulled off the Atacon. XQW gonna pop that between worlds, but they are getting chunked. They need to get out of this fight. LGD, they mishandled the situation, and now LNG, they will not be able to push into the Atacon, and after all is said and done, it is Atacon GAs across the likes of LGD.
Crucial mistake from WeiWei. He reads the play, but he's just impatient, goes in 4 members in there. Shaoye has almost 3 items in his inventory, and that's a Sundered Sky Poppy. Absolutely melts right there. And these sort of iterations of skirmishes make you think, because the Ezreal plus Corki in this particular skirmish, you saw how much damage they were doing over Atacon, putting down so much damage, and Corki Ezreal pressuring. You saw instantly Photic in over the wall, and you can play through that wall. It's the perfect opportunity for LNG to come back, to try and force LGD's hand on that play, and then poke through the wall and capitalize through the Gwen. Unfortunately, WeiWei just gave away the play a little bit too early, and LGD capitalized by taking an Atacon that is, as an LPL team, you should be very happy to take. Hold up. Sasi?
Hey, he got the objective. He's got Atacon by his side, and he will be back in the fold very shortly. Has TP, so can make that ultimate Atacon play to get back out on the map. It is going to be the reset looking like for LGD to get ready for this dragon. In 40 seconds, it would be sole point for LGD. And at this point, I mean, you're, like you said, 2 items on these kind of dual carries for LNG. Maybe hoping for a third, but are you able to give over this soul point and buy time for that soul?
I feel like you only have 20 seconds. There is no way you're walking out of your base right now if you're LNG. I feel like the only thing you have to hope for is that your Corki keeps clearing out waves, your Gwen keeps clearing out waves, and they become monsters. You're looking for third item spikes right here, but it's kind of impossible to also walk out and get vision. You need your Alistar to be there, because WeiWei is just too squishy onto this Poppy. And right now you see, very well done right there from WeiWei. Sneaks onto the top side of the map, gets the Scuttle Crab. At least it will give you some vision for the Baron to come up in about 10 seconds. And I feel like this is what LNG need to hope to make a play on. You give up the Dragon. You know that the next objective in LGD's eyes is this Baron. Try to use your poke from the side of LNG to create a situation where potentially an Alistar all-in could give you a kill back.
5-minute timer started now. LNG, what are you going to do with this 5 minutes? As XQW was looking for a little angle here. He's getting chonked here as now he's going to get sent back with his Atacon GA. Luckily, he had about 2 seconds to spare on that one. So he does end up getting the proc. They will fall so nobody else uses theirs.
But this is it, right? The Atacon play is off. It resulted in about 1 dragon, which is not the worst. But usually when you have a Russian Atacon, you want to get more on the map. The TP flank coming through.
My
Double
God.
TP flank coming through.
It's the Avengers. They're coming. And I don't know if LNG know. They know now. XQW finds the Between Worlds, but gets immediately just taken down out of the fight. LGD, they went for a very zealous fight and unmake themselves. But maybe now turning over. They have all members here. They're going to go towards mid lane.
I'm not gonna lie, I think XQW is not fighting versus LNG, he's fighting against his demons to press TP. Because twice now, those 2 TPs are just a little bit too deep. And again, you see how clutch that Poppy comes through in these fights. Let's watch this one more time. The deep teleport is from Aurora, it's not from Jax. WeiWei has already used his W, but the second he sees XQW, pins him onto the wall, Photic lands the Q, dives with the E over the wall, and Zhuo just about gets away with his life. By that time, LGD had burned way too much, and play got called off.
Yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about XQW. He definitely has not lived up to kind of maybe expectations for LGD. I think he has maybe been the weakest link of the team. But here in this situation, we're just looking for good deaths, baby. We're just looking for good deaths.
And that wasn't one of them.
Come. That wasn't one of them. He'll have to try again. We have about 3 minutes until that next dragon. That would be the big setup that we were talking about, that timer for LNG. And if you remember, folks, this is do or die for LNG. If LGD win another game, then it is a contested setup between second and third with JDG and LGD if things go perfectly right. But LNG will succumb to the group Nirvana curse.
Oh, the Baroner here has been started. They're looking to pull Zika's TP, but there is no TP that Zika can pull here. Maybe on the top side wave?
Oh, bullet time's going to be used. That's a massive tool there, but the Unbreakable has also been utilized. Down to about 5,000 health. WeiWei is in the front line. WeiWei's getting chunked. XQW dodging, dipping, diving, and now LGD. They might look for the fight afterwards or look to run away. WeiWei wants to try to catch them. Counter-Strike going in. Doesn't hit it, but gets the kill anyways. Sasa in the midst of all of LNG, looking for kills and looking for more. And he's got that damn dog with him again. Call Scooby-Doo. Call somebody, because LNG need help. Climber's viscerating him. Climber's eating them. And Climber gets a triple kill.
And all eyes on Climber for this one. Gets the big letters on the screen. But the real hero was Shaoye. Not touched at all through this entire fight. Pulled up, I think, 5,000 damage, if I'm not wrong. Baron goes to LGD. Fight goes to LGD. Mid lane inhibitor for LGD. And this could be Soul as well. 1.5 minutes on the clock. And they will have Baron. Push mid. Baron on the side lanes. And a Soul, which is going to be Ocean, which is so good when you're playing versus Poke. And I'm going to take us all the way to the beginning after this replay, however, because right here, that is great stuff from LGD. I want your eyes on Shaoye. He was not touched at all. Look how great he played with spacing. He walks out, baits LNG. Once he knows he's safe, he walks back in. Sasi with a fantastic counter-strike into 3 people. And Shaoye basically was untouched for the entire fight.
I mean, it's so rare to see an ADC untouched, but there's just so many other things to focus on here. There's so many other issues. Oh, man. We're in a bullet time combo there. I don't know if they can defeat Climber here. Climber is just running rampant on the map, and LGD find more picks.
Yeah, I feel like if that was the best of, you'd say go back to the drawing board, see what you're playing for game 3. It's not. It's a 1-game deal, and
it's fearless best of ones.
It's fearless best of ones, and for LNG, this was a
they can't play these champions
game.
again, Trouble. I don't know what to tell you. That's what I come away from this one for.
Well, they might not be allowed with this score lines. Shaoye on the misfortune, 5-0 and 6, and LNG only 3 members in base trying to defend versus a barred up team.
It's so tough. The siege is very tough as well, but now they can just pull back. Everybody's coming out of base. Everybody's getting that resetted, coming through. They had already gotten Sasi back onto the map. I will say, YCX taking a long route down to this setup, but the dragon has already been taken, not even contested, and that's an ocean soul to LGD. He's got to get preemptive vision, all right? Preemptive vision.
All right, well, Mazel, actually guide us through this one because we didn't get to see it. You want to play the
slow-mo play-by-play. It's just really nice setup there. I mean, you're fighting at a choke point against the misfortune. I think it's just difficult.
We mentioned over in the early game how difficult it's going to be because even though Corki and Ezreal do spike at the same time and they're both very capable carries, especially when they get their poke down, it's just very difficult to get priority through the early laning phase, particularly with Ezreal, and they were shut down by Shaoye's misfortune down bot lane. And then we mentioned how difficult it would be once Fog of War goes down for LNG to face check. And so far, we have seen the whole thing just unfold before our eyes. It's so hard for them to walk inside their jungle. It's so hard for them once LGD commits into the fight for LNG to do anything because they have to kite backwards. But when you lose one of your 2 tanks, it's just so difficult to maintain the poke. And LGD are just hitting them with pure raw damage.
Now they're getting the kind of 4-1 setup in top and mid lane. We've already gotten that inhib in mid lane, so the super minions helping in that fashion. Sasi is actually looking a little bit more aggressive into mid lane as they're trying to collapse into this dive potentially if they can get a wraparound from Sasi. Luckily, they have decent clear. Bullet time going to come through. About half health onto Photic. That enables them to get space enough to take the tier 2 turret. That will fall. Now Shaoye was looking for a little bit of damage onto Photic. Nice little wall bang there onto Sasi. He will make it out with a leap strike. Zhuo getting a little bit lower. Zika is now the target. Sasi low, gets stunned up by Zhuo. Nice little setup. The steadfast presence is in there. And oh, Sasi can't get a counter strike. And now WeiWei's gone. You're losing members left and right. The magic hook from the deep. The anchor is heavy, and the more kills go in the way of LGD. 32 minutes in, LGD will push LNG into that deep, dark pit of Nirvana, and they will give a fight in Group D, and they will tie up JDG, meaning that next game is all important in Group D. Let's go!
Huge win right here from LGD. Last year was an absolute disaster for the org. And right here, coming through with so many rookies in the lineup as well. And beating an LNG that on paper should be stronger than them. Sending them straight to that group Nirvana and also keeping themselves up to actually get through that group ascent without having to potentially play playoffs. Obviously, we'll see the next 2 games what's going to happen. But that was a very stable game from that early with the priority lanes into slowly but surely chipping the side lanes without Jax.
I'm so happy that Climber got to have a redemption to Fury game and actually like hard carry a lot of those fights. The composition felt really good from LGD. Again, I don't want to harp on LNG too much. They just have not lived up to expectations. We can pick them apart. I don't feel like it's right. I think we just haven't seen them be able to connect in the right ways. And you'd think with some of the veterans here on the team, you'd want to see a little bit more cohesion than that. There's still a long road ahead for them. They still have another game today, but they will be looking at games in the Nirvana group and trying to keep themselves above that 2 last places in the group at least to hopefully see split 3. But right now, I think the biggest story is that LGD is living up to some of those expectations. When they came into 2025, that first split, people didn't really know how to feel about this roster. People didn't know how to feel about this organization. They showed up. They had a lot of back-breaking moments where it's like so close to being so successful, and it's nice to see them transition into a split 2 where they're showing off some of those performances. It's not consistent. It is by far not consistent, but this team has gumption, and I think it's one of those things that, I mean, a lot of the team here at LPL English was super excited about them, and now they are contesting in Group D.
I mean, I feel like even their loss earlier on versus IG, it looked pretty good. You're going up against a team that has not dropped a single game. They're supposed to be far superior than anyone else in their group, and they are. Yet you lose very respectfully, and particularly in this game, Shaoye looked so incredibly strong on that Xayah up to the very last moment. I'm like, this guy's just gonna pentakill them. The death damage is gonna be too large, and they're just gonna end the game off of Shaoye making a mega play, which almost happened. But again, it shows you all this promise coming through that bot lane, and it was the case in this game versus LNG as well. They just took that prior through bot lane, they got the kills from Misfortune. Shaoye didn't die a single time playing into Gwen.
Yeah, and that's the craziest part, is that this man played Misfortune, and we were harping on the pick. We were talking about, oh, you're never going to have people to stand still for you. What are you going to do? What could happen? Boy, he shows out big time. And it's against none other than Photic. Yeah, he made them stand still. Mind control. That's what he unlocked this time around. But it was also over Photic, and I think that was one of the big stories here, is to figure out how strong Shaoye can be comparatively to a lot of the other ADCs. Obviously, a large list to go through on the rest of the league itself, but in terms of these 4 teams, we did see Shaoye have a lot of really good performances, and especially on different picks, on different styles. And we see the dominant victory here, albeit LNG put up a fight, but it was still LGD favored all the way through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always call Corki and Ezreal numbers completely placebo, because these 2 champions just inflate their DPS numbers just by throwing rockets, throwing Qs. But overall, it shows you how much of a quote-unquote winnable game it could have been for LNG. But I feel like a lot of the teams, when they fall into the quote-unquote trap of blue side, you're locking in that Gwen B1. I'm expecting Zika to do wonders. When you're giving B1 to a team, I want that B1 team to be the difference maker for you. And not that he had a bad performance, he just didn't have that outstanding performance on the Gwen for it to be worth being B1.
There were some moments you're like, oh, my, okay, this is why we picked the champion. I like it. But in the end, it didn't really matter. It didn't have that same impact that you're really looking for. The Nefiri still having lots of impact.
Don't show it. Don't show it.
No, yeah, we're going to see
They're going to
it.
do dirty.
We know it. Slow-mo, absolute
It's coming.
cinema. Just hold your hands up and enjoy it. That'll be on the highlight reel. And that'll be living rent-free in Photic's nightmares for the far future here. There were some questionable moments from LGD, but as a whole, I think it's a team that you can be happy about how they scrap. And in this group in particular, I think that's the most fun of things. XQW though, they're gonna have a talk about the TPs. It's gonna get cleaned up. It's gonna be fine. This guy, he's a new player. He's a new player. It's fine.
He's going to show up in the next game either with Ignite or Ghost as his secondary summoner. It's going to be Flash Ghost, Flash Ignite. Hey, maybe you can play Vladimir. Flash Ghost is pretty good. There you go.
True. I can't argue with that logic here. No, but giving a hard time to one of the newest players in the LPL, but still, nonetheless, I mean, obviously it's a situation where in the LPL you need to have a lot of strength in mid lane. You need to have a lot of strength in terms of the matchups, but also your team fight aspect. So those are the kinds of things that LGD can clean up as well, and they will need to, because they're going to be going right back onto the docket. They're going to be going right back against their pivotal matchup. It is stress after stress. You had to win this game. You have to win the next game if you want second place. Like, that would be fun. Then we go to tiebreakers. JDG did win the first matchup, so if they do win, then they will secure that second place. So it is do or die for LGD all night long.
Hey, XQW beat the guy who replaced Scout. Now XQW needs to show that he can beat
and
the guy
XQW
who
is the guy that replaced Haichao. So then it's like a leapfrog effect. You just keep going down the line. Now whoever's replacing XUW is going to be him, and then Haichao loses. And
it's a full circle. It's coming together. But no, you need to actually like prove that you can beat Scout, because Scout is still the pivotal player that like LNG had and now JDG have. And this is going to mean that potentially you can just make it into that group ascent. This is no do or die whatsoever, but from an LGD that I remember from last year being a team that were like, hey, okay, they're just going to lose. Like, who cares? They're going to go into Group Nirvana. It's just, we're expecting it, right? But now bringing all these rookies and actually showing up fights, like JDG is your big opponent to actually make it to that group ascent.
And that JDG team has not been something to be proud of. I will just, as a JDG fan, you're just not proud of the stuff that's been going on. Shaoye, out of everybody, gets that MVP vote. 8-0-7 on the misfortune. We doubted him, and boy, were we wrong. Shaoye does take that MVP in massive performances as well. I mean, he got bullet times off when we didn't think there would be angles for them, but mostly just kind of having Photic's number the whole time.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like they had a very dominant laning phase. They had a very dominant mid game, and I feel like they moved him around the map like the artillery tower that a misfortune is. He was the strongest member in their team, and I feel like LGD just straight up played better around him. They kept transitioning him straight into the mid lane. The second you had Bloodthirster into that mid lane, perma priority. LGD could just do whatever they wanted because they transitioned that misfortune mid with Bloodthirster early on.
Well, that's it for our fourth game of the day, but we are not even close to being done yet because the next matchup is even more hype. We'll see who can take that second seed at least with JDG and LGD coming up after this break.